Hi everyone, Zoltan here. We're back again. I almost said Hipther Talks, but this time is the iGaming Exchange. I'm so happy to have you here since if you are visiting this video on YouTube, on our Knowledge Hub, we're happy to have you here. We bring you this episode every month. This time we're sticking to the to North America, as North America's iGaming market has we can call it seen maturing, but B2B providers face a double challenge, especially serving increasingly demanding players while operating across a patchwork of regulations. So, from the US states to Ontario, digital native players expect seamless experiences. Of course, personalized engagement, instant payments, and visible commitment to responsible play. I don't know if the rest part they are really into, but it makes a good PR point of view. But I have some special guests today. Let's start by who you see on the screen on the top of on the left is Jessica Mars from BD Gaming. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
We also have Sue Page from Neosurf.
Hi, good to see you all.
All right, and we also have Allan Petrilli from Acquire.bet. He has been, I think, in almost all our episodes. All right, so guys, before we begin, let's just like give a short introduction of ourselves. So Jessica, you go first.
Yeah, of course. I'm Jessica Mars. I am the VP of Product Marketing at Bede Gaming. So, we are a platform provider. We support the international markets, including Canada. And my role, really, moving from product management into product marketing, is looking at how we present ourselves within the wider iGaming business, how we can look to expand our operations across other markets, and kind of making sure our commercial development, we're engaging in the markets and raising that visibility of what Bede can do and support operators with.
All right, thank you, Sue.
Hi, Sue Page. Despite my accent, I've lived in New Jersey for 20 years, and I am the CEO of Americas for Neosurf. Neosurf is an alternate payment method company. We started in Paris over 20 years ago. We are live in 30 plus countries and just launched yesterday in the US. So I'm now live in the marketplace in the US, which is very exciting. We are about to launch a new product here as well, specifically focused on sports betting and responsible gaming called Wager Wallet. And just excited to be able to step into this space and expand our reach.
All right, thank you so much, Alan. You maybe want to give also some introduction.
Yeah, so I guess here I'll be wearing kind of two hats. At a group level, we run two businesses. One of them is a company called Intellytics, which is a tracking analytics BI platform that powers user acquisition for US, Canada, and international clients. I also run the day-to-day of our agency and player acquisition company called Acquire.bet. We run North America's largest affiliate platform network in the space. And also run a pretty sizable paid media agency. So wearing my user acquisition hat here today.
All right, thank you. And you're based in Ontario, right?
I'm based in Quebec, in Montreal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not Ontario, but quite close.
All right, because I just imported a SUV from Ontario to Europe, and I'm really happy about it. It's one of the greatest achievements of my life because of so much paperwork. So yeah,
I didn't know that we
let's
did
get
that.
started.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's
Should
interesting.
you be missing that in public, Zoltan?
Yeah.
We can do that. All right, so guys, this roundtable unites leaders across the ecosystem, like you heard it before. Analytics, payments, game providers, of course, content and affiliate intelligence. So we are happy to dissect what it truly takes to win the modern North American customer, and I hope that this episode will provide some guidance for you. Of course, if you are still here after the introduction, we'll be exploring how collaboration, flexibility, and empathy are shaping the region's next wave of iGaming innovations. So let's talk about the understanding of the modern North American player, because I'm sure it's totally different than the European player. So let's start with you, Alan, and go Sue, Jessica, about how are expectations evolving across regulated U.S. states, and of course markets like Ontario and in Canada where it's available. So, what makes a seamless and trustworthy experience today, Alan?
So I think it's interesting. I think there was a thought process early on in regulation in North America, or specifically in the US, that, the market was, bettors were experienced. They understood sports betting. They understood casino because of how kind of rampant betting was at a high level. And the reality is commercially it just wasn't, right? Like, your everyday person who enjoyed sports was not necessarily betting through a bookie or elsewhere before regulation. And I think even when the US regulated, it took quite a long time to go from having people understand betting, understand why an onboarding process that you need things like social insurance number, personal information, etc., to the point where now it's commoditized and a little bit more mass market. And I think early on you were able to get away with big bonuses to get people in the door, maybe not great CRM, maybe, not market leading product, etc. I think you fast forward to 2025 and beyond, you are competing directly with entertainment dollars on in the larger market, whether that's concerts, attending sporting events, other forms of entertainment. And the reality is I think customers are expecting seamless onboarding processes and personalization at a product level that our industry maybe didn't think was going to come as quickly as it has. The reality is everyone has a certain amount of disposable income that they can use on entertainment, and this industry fits into that puzzle. And I do think it's becoming more and more important that you're able to onboard someone easily and be able to personalize that experience. I mean, your average North American customer in any sort of entertainment product is used to be able to onboard and do something very, very quickly. And our industry makes it quite difficult to get to a point of where you're actually using the product. So obviously I'm no expert there. We have platforms on this call, we have payments on this call, which are the two kind of biggest portions of that flow. But the reality is things need to become faster and more fluid, because we will lose customers in that kind of journey if we don't.
All right. So, why are you giving hard time to this?
I'm not blaming Sue. Let me be clear.
Listen, I'm just a payment method. Don't blame me. I think part of it is where we've shoehorned existing solutions into this very specific category, and then the flip side of that is that these are, these are digital consumers, right? So when they have a bad experience, they're not necessarily comparing the sportsbook operators against each other. They're comparing, to Alan's point, right? It's entertainment. They're comparing against Netflix or their Amazon purchase or how they use Apple Pay. So, I think we have to be very conscious of that and recognize that they are actually experienced digital consumers. They have expectations of us, and these verification processes. I mean, Alan's right. I mean, we have improved. I think we've come a long way, but it's still painful, and it's not just the onboarding. Now, I've got added barriers when I want to pay out, when I want a withdrawal, and I don't understand why operator A has a different threshold than operator B, or what I did last week now doesn't work. So I think that we can certainly do a better job in how we communicate, more intuitive tools, being really clear in our communication, because just saying to me transaction failed is not really good enough. Right? And it's just creating a poor experience. So I think we can do more in just making that. And I hate to use seamless and frictionless, especially in payments. They're like our buzzwords. We've actually banned it from our marketing team because what does that actually mean, and how do we define that, and how do we measure it? But I think communication and super clear copy and intuitive user experiences is where we need to improve and continue to improve.
All right. So Alan put the blame on payments and providers. So Jessica, what are you guys doing wrong?
Getting radioed here.
Okay, wasn't expecting a grilling on the first question, Zoltan. Okay. No, I think really when you look at how, especially speaking from experience within the Ontario market since that's became regulated in 2022, there's so much choice there now for players. And like Alan and Sue saying, those players have experience across other areas. So e-commerce, they're looking at, Netflix making recommendations to them in terms of what you should watch. Why can we not adapt that across the iGaming sphere as well? So from Bede side with our platform, we work really closely with our operators to understand who are your players, what are their expectations, and where will their expectations be in the future, and how can we be two steps ahead. I always think when we look at the iGaming world, kind of from Bede side, being international and supporting multiple different countries, you see sort of a huge range of player expectations based on various cultural differences. So it's making sure that you've got the local trusted providers that, say, Canadians are used to for payments, for games content, things that are relevant to them, and promotional offerings around kind of events that they care about and linking it to the wider sort of community as well. So for us, it really is about having that flexibility to work with our operators and give the players the right choices at the right times that they can then build that trust with players as well.
All right, we talked about this on our podcast actually, that the world is becoming so stupid right now, being so reliant on ChatGPT and that interface that we actually integrated our registration platform for our conferences in the ChatGPT style. So basically, you're giving your name, hitting enter, then you're getting the question, where are you working and what's your company and blah blah blah. So actually it worked. It was kind of weird for some people, but it seems that maybe this would be the solution for everyone, like having that seamless gateway, just like chatting with an AI that will give you the answer. So why are your transactions limited to this certain amount? Why are your welcome bonuses not distributed, etc. So Alan, since you were the first one, I questioned about this, and you were so happy to throw the ball to the other side of the court. Uh, I will ask you for some guidance for Jessica and Sue, because with data powering engagement, and you are certainly the guy in the room who knows all about data, and there's also compliance controlling boundaries. How can B2B providers personalize effectively while still staying transparent, ethical, and responsible?
So look, when it comes to personalization, I think the biggest struggle that we have in the space is that whether you're an operator, a platform provider, etc., your data is so siloed in a bunch of different locations that it's sometimes unusable by an operator to be able to make data-driven decisions on what you personalize for a user, whether that's during the onboarding process, during when they're funding their accounts, to when they're playing, to when they're withdrawing. And I think the reality is, and we're going to have to get to a point where brands and operators are able to access the data that they have from their PAMs and their gaming providers and their payment companies in a way that allows them to centralize it and be able to power some of the decision making along the way. And I think like your tier one operators, the ones who own their entire tech stack, are able to do this because the data sits, on their own in their own ecosystem, and they're able to access every part of it. I think there's some platforms out there that are making strides in making that data more available. But we also, and I won't name them, on our tech side of our businesses, we work with a lot of platforms who, when you talk to them about integrations, etc., just put up a brick wall right away and say, we don't have the time, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the staffing to be able to do that kind of stuff. And in today's day and age with AI and how, and technology, there's really no excuse at a high level to put up a barrier without exploring what kind of integrations can be done. And I think we throw around, what are some of the use cases of AI in our industry. I think making integrations more seamless and faster is going to be a big win that AI gives our industry. Because right now, you're looking at integrations that should take, a day to a week, taking, 6 to 12 months because of product roadmaps, and I'm really hoping that does speed it up. And again, that's not a shot at platform providers in the space, because I think a lot of them, are servicing different geos, different platforms, different products, and there's a lot that they have to continuously build from a compliance and regulatory standpoint. But we do compete in an entertainment environment where other industry don't face those same challenges, and we do need to get to a place where we can compete on an even playing field, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's easy for Netflix or Hulu to just like you hit that unsubscribe button and you're good to go. Jessica, do you guys provide? I'm interested about. Do you personalize effectively while staying transparent, ethical, and responsible?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just linking on from Alan's point there around sort of platform providers and the restrictions with APIs. So from Bede's side, something that we're really passionate about is remaining open to any provider integration. So we are constantly building out which third parties we have integrated. We want to be, from our side, the core PAM, and we want to integrate with the best in class providers that can satisfy requirements around sort of personalized casino lobbies, for example, personalized recommendations of next best promotions, as an example. So for us, it's really around keeping flexible and allowing operators to choose which providers they use alongside our PAM, leveraging the data that we capture. So we absorb all of that data around the players' deposit withdrawal behaviors, promotional claims, gameplay, and we can really surface that to them and working with these third party providers to build out that full personalized experience. And it really doesn't have to be as overcomplicated as I think people make it. And I also think when we're talking about seamless, a lot of people think it's looking at automated, and that is not the case at all. You're looking at how do you make things kind of as easy to use and as easy for players to understand, and that comes from personalization and looking at, okay, what is this player going to prefer as their next best step, and anticipating that before they even know what they want, because we're leveraging the data that we store on our platform. So for us, we guide our operators in terms of you have total control and flexibility with our platform rather than doing the personalization ourselves.
All right. So my next question would be for Sue, because it's about payments, especially the frictionless journey. So yeah, this is very important because nowadays, if you don't have the frictionless payment solutions, you are toasted. The player will go to the next operator. So why are secure, smooth payment flows now central to player trust and conversion? And I'm also interested about how can technology and partnerships remove friction across jurisdiction. And maybe after Sue, Ellen, Jessica, if you like to bootstrap this.
So you're absolutely right. I mean, payments are the foundation of player trust, right? Because if you screw that up, then you've lost that player for good. And like I said before, they're not, when they're transacting, they're blaming the operator. They're not blaming their bank
Yeah.
or whatever the payment is the operator's blame. So it's a loyalty challenge there, and they are used to e-commerce and the experience that they have in their everyday lives, and that's the comparison. So I think, obviously we have a multitude of different payment methods, and I think what we see is that the consumer doesn't tend to use just one. They'll use what's useful. They use what's there for their budget. So having options is really important. But I strongly believe, and obviously I'm a little bit biased about this, but I strongly believe that one of the reasons that wallet usage is rising so fast is because players want more control and they want privacy and predictability. So they know that once they've deposited the money into the wallet, essentially that's cleared funds. So I can then, play with ease on the operators. I don't have the challenges that I faced before. We're getting faster payouts, and the whole process provides them with a lot more visibility. And I think, if we can provide a solution that is, you guys have been banding seamlessly around, and now it's stuck in my head, and I'm trying to think. the
You're
best
not allowed
way.
to use that term.
I know, I'm
Banned.
trying to for myself. But to Jess's point, I think seamless. It's about being more intuitive, and we payments companies play a super important role because I think that there's a balance of the personalization and AI, and we also have to take into account responsible gaming and how we're pushing and promoting, right? There's a very fine line there, and how we work with the operators. So I think we're going to continue to see payments evolving. I would hope to see other payments companies that are in this space take on RG in a similar way that we have, because I think that's going to form, the foundation of where the industry goes over the next few years. And again, being able to share data in a safe and generic manner that can improve the system for both the player and the operators is going to be key.
All right, Alan, do you want to add anything to this?
I mean, look, the reality is we live in like an instant gratification era, right? And shrinking attention spans and all the rest of that. And when you look at kind of both sides of the payments journey, like number one, and I come from a UA perspective, right? When we show an ad to someone on Meta and then they see an ad on Google and then they see a programmatic ad somewhere and then they finally convert, they download an app, they create their account, and then all of a sudden they can't, let's say they can't deposit, right there you're losing that user and all the effort that's gone into getting them into your app instantly, right? And I know I'm sounding very negative in everything I say on this call, but there are obviously a lot of payment solutions which make that onboarding incredibly easy. And the reality is you have that user's attention in that micro kind of moment. And if you're not allowing them to deposit and then play, the reality is you will likely lose them. And on the flip side, a player wins, etc., and they want to withdraw their money, it should not take them longer to have that money in their bank account than when they go on Amazon and make an order and have it delivered to their house later that day or the next day, right? Like the reality is in our industry, and I understand RG and I understand compliance, and there's a lot that goes into it that's a lot more complicated. But people are used to going on Amazon at 9 a.m. and ordering something and it's at their house that night, or going on Uber Eats and within 40 minutes they have something at their house. When they want to withdraw their money, if that takes, 24, 48, 72 hours, it becomes, they lose trust, even though there might be reasons for it. So I think Sue kind of nailed this, I think, in her first answer. If things are going to take a long time, or if there are hurdles we have to go over, I think we need to be really good at communicating that with the customer and explaining to them what is going on, as opposed to just being like, hey, your payment's coming, you will get it within, 7 days, and then not communicating with them at all. And I think as long as consumers know what's coming, but as long as consumers know what's coming, I think they can handle it most of the time. The challenge is when they're just kind of left in a black hole and they don't know, and that does happen in our industry and others. I think that creates a ton of friction that no one wants.
Also, yeah, and then you see. Oh, sorry. Go for it.
Oh, yeah. Just to reiterate what Allan was saying there, is that player behaviour. And we talked about how it differs in the US market to the UK and Europe, and there are actually still some very strong similarities. And that land-based behaviour, I want my money out, is very prevalent, right? That's why we see recycled funds being such an issue. And the player, they want their money out. The likelihood is it's going to go back in. I mean, we see something like 65% of what comes out to the wallet goes straight back in. But it's land-based behaviour. It's what people are used to when they're at the track or in the casino. They want their funds. And to Alan's point, they don't want to wait. I don't want to wait 72. Why am I waiting 72 hours? It's my money. Give it back.
All right, Jess.
Yeah, I was just going to link onto that with, as Sue mentioned, a lot of the time you do see it's players want that kind of control over being able to take their money out, but more than likely they are going to then put that money back in the near future, because that's how you build that trust with them, that we will give you that money back as soon as you want it. And you see a lot of brands now really pushing that they can do instant withdrawals. And you see it all the time. As soon as a player is unable to get their funds back, and maybe they've been left in the dark, like Allan mentioned, they're straight onto the gambling forums, they're straight onto the review pages, leaving really negative views, building up a negative kind of external face and experience for other players considering that brand as well. So it's kind of how do you preemptively avoid that and build that trust with players? And it's all about sort of giving them the right choices, And I suppose another thing, just linking with that kind of payments being the central to the player confidence. When we're talking about the modern players, a lot of people kind of just jump to straight sort of the Gen Zs of the industry. But, you know, you've got players of different demographics that have different expectations and different preferred payment methods. So you need to really make sure, link into intuitive, how you can make sure that you're offering the right methods to those players and not overwhelming them with choice, because you kind of have to play about with it as an operator to see, okay, maybe offer them the top two that we base on certain demographics around them, rather than giving them 8+ payment providers, because if they don't see the one that they like straight away, they're likely just to drop off unless you've got a really compelling reason for them to stay, which when you've got such a wide range of options, especially in Ontario market or US, then they're likely just to go to a different provider that has that readily available for them.
But I think just to add there, and it's important, is we're talking about acquiring, like I always go to, and a lot of what I said early on is you're acquiring a user who's maybe never bet, and it's their first sportsbook or casino. But the reality is a lot of the acquisition in this market is acquiring users who have one account somewhere else, and now they're opening up their second or their third account. And most of those users, when they go onto a new product, they're going to want to see how quickly they can get their money out, right? Because it's central to that trust piece. And I'm the same way. Like, I bet, and the reality is you know, it's not a shock in Quebec. I use Bet365, and I'll happily leave my money in there forever because I've trusted them for 10 years. But if I go on and I test like a Betway as an example, because they have a promo, I will ensure that I can get my money out before I'm happy to leave any liquid cash in there. And if I am able to withdraw and it's quick and it's seamless and all the rest of that, then I have a lot more trust. So I do think that is important. That first experience of putting money in and taking money out is arguably the most important experience of a user. Like, personalization, all that is great, but you know, at the end of the day, people want to be able to get money out of it.
Yeah. We did a survey with Betting Hero.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
We did a survey with Betting Hero. I think it was almost 2 years ago now, where we actually asked players not the traditional payments questions, but really more questions about their behaviour and how they considered RG and what was important to them. And over 75% said that if another operator offered a faster withdrawal experience, that they would move. So yeah, that's
a big number.
You're absolutely right, Alan. I mean, in terms of is there loyalty? If you give them a good solution, there's loyalty, absolutely. But if there's a better, faster method, then they're going to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Well, let's also talk about the black market, because definitely we cannot ignore it. And what is your consideration about crypto? Because they are very fast to withdraw, very fast to deposit. So, and online casinos on the black market that provide only no KYC deposits are on the rise. We can say that publicly. We said it a lot. We don't need to ignore this. We need to talk about it, right? So what's your take on this, Allan?
My first take is going to be, if we want to talk about black market and we want to talk about the threats and we want to talk about the issues, the reality is regulate iGaming, casino, whatever you want to call it, across all states in the U.S., and then you will have less of that problem. I think that's probably not the answer to the question that you're.
For us, we don't. Certainly from a US standpoint, we're not providing any crypto solutions, and we're not operating with anyone that's not that we're not getting KYC, be that business, be that KYB, or for the consumer. I think it's a well-worn trail when we talk about how the regulated market impacts the black market, and where players are always going to find a way to bet. What we need to do is to do a good job of keeping the regulated market enjoyable and providing those options and providing that safe space for the players, that they don't feel the need to go elsewhere.
All right, Adam, what's your take on this?
My first take is we're never going to be able to combat the black market and the crypto market, et cetera, in North America or in U.S. specifically until we regulate across most states. I think we can sit around and have conversations about messaging and product and trust, et cetera. The reality is especially when it comes to iGaming, sports betting, a little bit different. There's obviously a lot of other products
Yeah.
that are sports betting adjacent that we can argue whether they are legal or not legal, etc. I don't think we want to go there on this call. But when it comes specifically to casino, until it's regulated across more of North America, I don't know that we stand a chance to slow down black market activity. The reality is they offer compelling, good product in states where your top tier 1, tier 2 operators cannot operate. There is a whole lot of public posturing around how you can't trust them, they don't pay out, there's risk. 100% there's risk. But some of these brands have been around for 20, 30 years with history of good customer service and payment, etc. And it's not good enough to kind of, as an industry, to just kind of label that as, oh, they're black market, you can't trust them, because the reality is they built up trust in states across their user base for a long time. And I'm a huge proponent of it's a very difficult conversation to have when regulation is completely stagnant in casino. And I don't have the solution to it. I understand politics is politics. But I mean, things just need to change for that to become a reality. And I don't know that the black market will slow down until that happens. I don't know that unless someone here has an idea, I don't know how we slow that market unless they start throwing everyone in jail. They, IP block those sites everywhere. Like I don't know that there's a solution outside of regulation.
All right, Jess.
Yeah, not much to add on this. From Bede's side, we do only work in regulated markets. Obviously, we're not blind to the illegal markets going on, the black markets, and even the grey markets. Lots of different colours going on. But yeah, from our side, it is around how do we support operators who are working in the regulated space towards in line with the regulations to really provide a fantastic experience for their players, to try and kind of support them from going to other options that offer the likes of crypto or various other methods. Yeah, not too much from my side on this one.
All right, so let me give you guys a horror
Zoltan, can I ask you
story
one question? Does anyone here do you have a thought process on? I don't even know that the average consumer knows the difference in many of the states in the U.S. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just think the industry's done a bad job. Like I was at G2E and I was having a conversation with someone in a casino, etc. And they were like, I think I was at a blackjack table, and they were like, "What are you here for?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm here for the gambling conference." And they asked me what I did, and I say we do user acquisition in the space. And the question that came out of this gentleman's mouth, "Oh, you do acquisition for brands like RainBet?" Like that was people don't know. Like I think the average consumer does not know the difference. And that maybe I'll change my answer a little bit. I think we have struggled as an industry to be able to clearly delineate what is regulated and what is not regulated. And I think that requires operators coming together as a group and fighting that. And that hasn't happened.
Yeah, so let me give you two horror stories coming since Halloween.
We don't promote RainBet. Let me make that clear. We only promote regulated.
No. We in Warsaw we hosted an award ceremony where we were giving out awards for operators and B2B providers. The voting was based on a link which was sent to all the participants, a secret link, and everybody who voted. Basically, it was a popularity contest, no judges, etc. Among the shortlisted companies was a blacklisted company, which was blacklisted about 60 times in that jurisdiction in which we were being located, and they actually won the best customer support as an operator because of their popularity. So coming back to what you said, this is something very interesting that that people don't discuss, and even in the industry, they don't care about it sometimes. Second horror story is about regulation, and I will not name the jurisdiction because people will actually start Googling it and know which jurisdiction is about, which has two tiers of taxing the player for their winnings. This story is coming from the land-based industry, where if you win an X amount, you are taxed more than 60% from your winnings. So the operator, the land-based operator, in this case, when you're going with your ticket to pick up your money, is going to ask you to come to their office and tell you, okay, let's split this winning up, and we will give you like for 7 days, we will split the amount and give you so that you don't get taxed. So yeah, this is the type of regulation that is hurting the industry all around the world. And like you said, politics, they don't understand. They just like throw their stuff around. And yeah, the black market is growing and growing. And coming from Europe, I can tell you that here it's even massively growing than it does in North America, because probably people are more responsible there. But yeah, let's move on.
Well, and no one wants to hear the reality that some of the regulation that's guised in RG is actually allowing the black market. Like, I think we need to be a little bit careful of how we manage responsible gaming to not push more people to the black market, because at the end of the day, what that might be helping with people in the regulated market to some degree, if you're pushing 50% of those people to the black markets, you are actually not doing anything good for responsible gaming at a whole, right? Like, your individual stats as an operator or as a licensed geo might look good, but then when you zoom out, it's like actually we're pushing people into products where they're going to lose a lot more and they have no protection, which should be the exact opposite of what RG strives to do.
So yeah,
I think
let's
that
turn.
also,
Go ahead.
that also, when I was at SBC Lisbon, how big is that dog?
Really not that big.
I moderated a panel on positive play, and it was really interesting to get that different view on responsible gaming. Because I agree, Alan, there's an element there that where we're almost pushing players in the opposite direction. But when you start to frame the industry in a more positive way, right? There's so much negativity around sports betting. There's always news in the press about gambling addiction and pressures, which rightly so needs to be covered, but we don't talk about the positive impact enough. Yeah. And I think there's still a big job to be done in how we switch that discussion and how we're talked about in the press, because there is a lot of good being done. There's a lot of charitable donations. There's a lot of funds going into schools and education. And I think it's really important that we talk about that. And I think that, again, pushing the industry into a more positive light will also help players make the decisions.
We actually talked about with Martin Litschko on our podcast about that, but we should talk about also the positive sides. So let's move on to our next question, because I think given my ADHD, I just like diverted from this. And in a fragmented market, how can cooperation between platforms, content providers, and payment partners help operators deliver a more consistent or maybe sustainable player experience? So, Allan, you're the first one to go.
Oh, we're trying to stay positive, so let me know. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer that, and this is what's driven growth in our business, is I think being curious is key to growth on every business out there. And I think there needs to be more roles at platforms, payment providers, games providers, agencies, etc., where we sit down and we talk to each other and we get an understanding of, like, what do you have that we can leverage? What do they have that you can leverage? And not put up these, as I mentioned earlier, these walls where it's just like right away, we don't have the bandwidth or the availability to do anything for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. The reality is, in how quickly technology moves these days, if we're planning 12 months out, we're obsolete, right? So I think there's more cooperation across each of these types of companies to be able to sit down and say, hey, like, we come across this with Intellytics quite often. And it's very frustrating where we'll have an operator that wants to use us, and then their PAM will tell us, oh, well, we don't have your integration live and it's going to take 6 months. And the reality is, we actually never even had a conversation with that platform for them to even look at our integration docs to evaluate it. And again, I'm not throwing every PAM under the bus, because there are some who have open APIs and make things very easy. But I think going to how can you make it as easy to facilitate any type of integration as possible is what's going to drive growth for every company on this call. Because the reality is the more walls that we put up in each of our businesses, the less opportunity ends up being driven our way down the road. And I just think just more open conversation, more collaboration less putting walls up between what each of us do, I think, is key. Now that's a lot easier said than done. I fully understand what I'm asking here, but I do think having a role internally that just explores opportunity and how we can improve, I think, is key.
All right, Sue.
Yeah, I hate to say it, I agree with Allan again. It's another one of those industry buzzwords, isn't it? Collaboration.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
because it's true, and I think that's it. I believe it's key to industry success. I mean, if you think about the wagering journey, right, from the decision making process of the player to I'm going to make the deposit all the way through to the wager, how many different pieces of technology are involved in that journey? And none of them work in isolation. So we are actually already collaborating to a certain extent because there's integration. But we're not living in a perfect world where everyone's sharing data. But what we alluded to earlier about having the ability to be able to share information across platforms. Again, when I'm looking at it, if I know that if a player's set limits, that limit can be set across all of the operators. I can tell operator A that the limit's been met on operator B, and we can provide a better solution to the player because of that information. And that in turn helps the industry build a better view of that player behavior. So I think it's only a positive, but getting there is a different story. I mean, we have great relationships and great partnerships, but I think that we still need to expand that even more, and to be more open with each other where we can.
All right, Jess.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sue and Alan have covered it perfectly, to be honest. It is truly about just leveraging one another's expertise in your particular area. As I mentioned, Bede, we focus on being the PAM, the core central management tool with all of the best-in-class providers integrated. And we really do look to build those partnerships because they are crucial to leverage that experience and that data that each provider shares and has and tracks and builds on, leveraging one another's roadmaps as well, looking at what are you focused on and build and how can we take advantage of that for our operators and vice versa, and how can we support operators to give them the technology and the products that are neatly packaged up in a lovely bowl to help them succeed in their strategies, rather than given kind of a fragments of various different tools and partnerships and providers and saying, okay, you figure out how it all works together. Actually, we should come together as B2B providers to look at how we can fully package everything up and again, just support the operators to succeed.
I think the best, the more hip word for this would be strategic partnership rather than collaboration. That's what's the terms being used in PR. All right, so guys, final question for everyone. So as tech and regulation and of course player behaviors is evolving, what will the winning strategy look like for B2B providers that are supporting North American operators over the next, let's say, 2-3 years? Allan, what's your take on this?
I'm going to just go back to the word integration. Like being open to do as many integrations as possible to be able to allow your customers, which are operators in most of these cases, have the flexibility to use the tech that they want to be able to power their operational platforms. Like at the end of the day, there's nothing more frustrating on the operator end than having like a shiny new tool that you want to use and it's going to take a year to get it integrated. I think at the end of the day, the speed of integration, the openness to integrating new product, anyone who does that really well, and it sounds like I don't have any experience working with Jess, but it sounds like Bede is doing that. Like I think that is key, because the reality is there will be competitors out there to you that do offer more seamless integrations, and they will grow a lot faster than you do if you're not open to that.
Okay, Sue.
All of the above and everything that we discussed prior, I think, and the other key word is flexibility. I think the providers that build flexibility into their platforms and into those integrations, because we're going to evolve quickly. AI is going to be more prevalent. There is going to be more customization. RG, positive player, is going to form, I think, drive more strategically what we do. And I think that if we those that have been successful are those that build that flexibility in so that they can easily embrace new structures and accountability. And I'll stick my neck out a little bit further and say probably more white labeling.
Okay, fair point. Jessica.
Yeah, I suppose when we're especially looking at the next 5 years within the likes of the US and Canada, one of the key things I would say for B2B providers to really look further afield in terms of other more mature iGaming markets and understand sort of trends and patterns that have happened within there and how that weaves in with the sort of evolving technology as well. Just looking at sort of, the European markets, recognizing, yes, there's differences in player preferences, but how's regulations changed over time? How can you kind of preemptively adapt to that and prepare within your sort of North American markets to be kind of set up for success way ahead in advance of things coming into play? That'll really set you apart as a B2B provider and having all of that readily available to support operators and be sort of ahead of the game and really, yeah, just looking at how you can suit those ever evolving needs of both the players and the regulators.
All right. Thank you guys so much for your time and for your inputs. I hope that our audience found it valuable as well. So, any conferences are you still joining this year, or you would like to already start wishing people Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year?
We're all done at B-sides this year. We are looking forward to ICE 2026. If anybody is attending, I'm sure majority of the industry will be, maybe more from Europe side, but
Hello.
I've got a couple. We're in Miami, the Clarion Gaming Leaders Summit in a couple of weeks, and
Okay.
and then in Puerto Rico, in San Juan, for Nickel G's. So I somebody has to do it, right?
Yes.
We have a couple of members of the team going to affiliate World Bangkok, obviously for our traffic business, and then start the year early next year with affiliate Summit West, and then ICE back to back first 2 weeks of January, which is. Don't get me started on ICE moving to the beginning of January. I think it's absolutely absurd in terms of timing, but it is what it is. But yeah, nothing. One more this year, but I'm done traveling.
All right. So
Other people
happy
will
to
go.
hear that. And yeah, guys, we will probably have another episode this year in December. But until then, I wish you all the best. And thanks for our speakers once again for joining us. We will be back next month. Bye bye, everybody. Take good care.
thank you.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.